President Trump and the president of South Africa. I'm sure you've seen this confrontation by now. It was amazing. But we saw something that maybe you didn't see. South African immigrant Elon Musk was in the room. And what he did, well, you've got to see it to believe it. I'm sure by now you've seen the extraordinary events in the Oval Office yesterday. President Trump welcoming the president of South Africa. Let me give you a background here on this. As you know, last week, the Trump administration welcomed several thousands of refugees who were claiming asylum status from South Africa because they were being persecuted by the government due to their skin color. These are white Afrikaners whose land was being confiscated by the government for one reason and one reason only: because of the color of their skin. And they've been the victim of horrible, horrible, violent, murderous, genocidal actions, and the government's doing nothing about it. So we granted them asylum. The president of South Africa, outraged about it, demanded to talk to Donald Trump so he could tell him the truth. And Trump said, "You bet your ass. Come on over. Let's have a meeting." And of course, by now you've probably seen that during the meeting, Donald Trump asked for the lights to be dimmed. He turned to a television screen, and they had a 7-minute video showing leader after leader after leader affiliated with the president of South Africa calling for the murder of the Boer. Kill the Boer, kill the Boer. The Boers are the whites who live in South Africa. This has become a rallying cry, and it's certainly become inspirational for a lot of people who are doing just that. They are killing the Boers. Then, when the video was over, President Trump turned to his guest in classic Trump fashion and continued the narrative about what's really going on in that country. If the president of South Africa, President Unpronounceable, if he was expecting some sort of navel-gazing, diplomatic speak, and, "Oh, well, my good friend of South Africa, I'm sure we'll work out whatever needs to be worked out. Everyone take your pictures of the photo op, and then we'll close the doors, and then we'll have our conversation." If that's what he was expecting, well, he got a real wake-up call, because there's a new president now, and he's coherent, and he has moral clarity. Watch what happened next.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know. To pick anyone. White South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couples say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
Well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter. This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President Ramaphosa?
Your reaction to those videos?
President Trump.
Well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it, but this is a tremendous look. This is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are. And you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march. They had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
But let me clarify that.
Yeah, and they're members of his political party. Many of them are politically affiliated with him or part of another party that he has affiliated with and made a coalition with so that he can get into power. And remarkably, like one of the only excuses that the apologists for the South African government have in this atrocity, this absolute humanitarian genocidal atrocity, is, hey, everybody's getting murdered in South Africa. You know, there's black people getting murdered too. Okay. That's the best the president of the nation can say. Except it's funny, nobody in power in South Africa is dancing around chanting and leading mobs of people chanting, kill blacks too, kill blacks. And no, it always seems to be killing whites. And yeah, listen, murder is bad. And there's a lot of countries that have high crime rates. But when a government and government officials specifically target one group of people because of their skin color, well, of course, the United States has every right and frankly responsibility to open our doors to them and give them asylum, which is what we've done. And it went on. You heard the president start to take issue with one of the reporters in the group. Don't worry. We're going to get to the media coverage of yesterday's remarkable events and the appropriate calling out of genocide as we see it right now happening in our time. You know, let's not look back 10 years later and say, oh, wow, there was a genocide there. I wish someone had said something about that. Bill Clinton never said anything about the genocides in the Congo when he was president. 10 years later in Rwanda, I believe it was, right? The Rwandan genocide between two warring tribes in that country during a civil war. Now, both sides happened to be black. So apparently it didn't matter. If one side was white, then, oh my God, stop the presses, right? But Bill Clinton never said really anything about it at all. And now they make movies about it. This was horrible. It was disgusting. 1 million people died. No one said anything at the time. Now someone's saying something at the time. And people are like, oh, yeah, you can't really call it a genocide. Let's not. How many people need to be murdered until it's okay to call it a genocide? How many? What's the number? Please tell me. You know, oh, you know, it's only a couple of thousand. Oh, okay. What word do you want us to use? Maybe we shouldn't let the genocide play out to the level that you demand it play out to, so that then 10 years from now, we can all clutch our pearls like Jake Tapper, furrow our brow, put our smart guy glasses on and say, that's a real crying shame that nobody said anything about this genocide at the time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This man's doing something about it. He showed headline after headline after headline, a stack of stories just in the last couple of weeks. What does the president, unpronounceable of South Africa, have to say for himself?
Let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to
them.
There
is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
the farmers are black. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off, they died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here, but I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it But they won't.
No, they won't. And they don't want to talk about it, by the way, because what you're seeing play out in South Africa could also be described as what's the catchphrase they like to use? Restorative justice. In fact, you'll see a little later on our program, there are people in the media who are saying, hey, you have to understand the context. You know, apartheid was bad. That was institutionalized racism. And that was led by the white Afrikaners who were in power. They're not in power anymore. But, you know, while they were in power, they took all this land. And, you know, it's time for them to give it up now. And we're going to take it if we have to. That's restorative justice. See, they don't want to talk about it because restorative justice is a term that is often thrown around here in this country as well, mostly at Ivy League universities and other liberal arts colleges. But this is what restorative justice looks like. Yeah, like I said, President Unpronounceable there from South Africa, his only response is, hey, everybody's getting murdered in my country. Yeah, it's interesting, though. It's only one group of people who are seeking asylum, and seeking safe haven, which I think tells you one thing, number one. Number two, you know, listen, I try to be even-handed. I try to be as generous as possible here and extend grace. I want to commend the president of South Africa. In one respect, he is different than other foreign leaders. He doesn't want these people to flee his country. He doesn't want them to go to America. He wants to keep them from leaving South Africa. Now, for what reason? Lord knows, maybe because it makes him look bad because he's overseeing a racial genocide in his country, maybe because he wants them to stay there so they can really pay the penalty for what they did during apartheid, even though it wasn't them, it was their ancestors or generations before them that did it. I'm not sure. But, you know, unlike the president of Honduras and Guatemala and Colombia and Venezuela, who demand that we take care of their refugees who come here and not send them back to their country, you know, at least this guy is like, no, I don't want them to go there. I want them to stay here in my country. So there's that. But of course, everything else about him seems to be corrupt and evil.
We have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to come into our country because they feel they're going to be killed and their land is going to be confiscated. And you do have laws that were passed that gives you the right to confiscate land for no payment. You can take away land for no payment.
I want to clarify that because we have a constitution. Our constitution guarantees and protects the sanctity of tenure of land ownership. And that constitution protects all South Africans with regard to land ownership. However, we do say, because we've got to deal with the past, the government, and as your government also has the right to expropriate land for public use.
And you're doing that.
And we've never really gotten underway with that. And we are going to be doing so.
You're taking people's land away.
We have not.
From them. And those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed. And they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away. And in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land and nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia in a smaller number. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country and they're white farmers and they feel that they're going to die in South Africa.
That's right. And by the way, the president unpronounceable of South Africa, at one point he brought a couple of dignitaries with him, white golfers from South Africa, thinking that it would ingratiate himself in his delegation to President Trump because Trump's a big golf fan. And he started turning. He's like, hey, they wouldn't still live in South Africa if all of this was going on, right? Hey, guys, right? Tell him. And one of the golfers actually said, actually, Mr. President, yeah, my family is terrified that they're going to be the next victims. It's absolutely happening. And eventually, this guy's own Secretary of the Agriculture, or Minister of the Agriculture, I think they call him there, actually confirmed and said, yeah, this is a real problem, and we've got to get a handle on it. It's not basically undermining the president's denials right there, the president unpronounceable. There, one of the people in the media actually asked President of South Africa if he denounced the outrageous calls for violence that we saw in that video.
Denounced that type of language in the video that you saw.
Oh, yes. We've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said, South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying, kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation.
It is. And by the way, for everybody saying, wow, free speech, you can say, it's an interesting thing. When you are a person in power and responsibility and influence, and you're egging on 100,000 people in a stadium and having them all chant, kill this group because of their racial identity, kill this group because of their racial identity. And then suddenly people in that group are being murdered because of their racial identity. Actually, free speech only goes so far in cases like that. And you hear the president of South Africa continuing to say, well, we have this constitution, and the constitution has this, and the constitution has that. And it's true, they have a constitution there. I think it's worth noting at this moment that former Justice, rest in peace, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she loved the South African constitution. In fact, when Egypt had overthrown their longtime dictatorship and they were forming a new government, she was asked, well, what would you suggest the new government of Egypt adopt as their basis of government? And she didn't say the amazing U.S. Constitution. She didn't say, if Egypt wants a perfect union that has been able to last 250 years now over here, despite all of our challenges and struggles, you would think that a Supreme Court justice whose job it was to interpret that U.S. Constitution and lived and died by that Constitution is sworn in to protect and defend that Constitution. You would think that maybe she would say, yeah, I like the U.S. Constitution. No, she answered the question by saying, hey, I think they should look at the South African Constitution. The Constitution that allows the government to have this happen on their watch. I think that's instructive. All right, but I told you something happened in this meeting that you may not have seen, that not a lot of people caught. As usual, the president had a group of his advisors on the sofa. They sit in rank there, right? You've got your vice president, you've got your secretary of defense, and you've got your secretary of commerce there. And then behind you see other advisors who are not members of the cabinet. You see Stephen Miller there. Do you see that guy dressed all in black right there? Can we see that? Can we zoom in a little bit? Remember, we keep hearing that Elon Musk is on the outs. Elon Musk, Doge is kaput. Elon Musk doesn't have any say in this guy. There's Elon Musk. Born in South Africa, now a U.S. citizen. There is Elon Musk, who one would think probably cares pretty deeply about this issue. I want you to watch Elon Musk, his body language. Watch Elon Musk's demeanor while this played out. Let's watch.
Tremendous complaints about Africa, about other countries too, from people. They say there's a lot of bad things going on in Africa, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. When you say we don't take others, all you have to do is take a look at the southern border. We let 21 million people come through our border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. They came from all over the world. In many cases, they're criminals. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions. They come from street gangs.
Did you see what I saw? Let's zoom in a little bit. Look at that look. Look at that death stare. Look at Elon Musk, fixed on the president of South Africa, President Unpronounceable, who has allowed this genocide to happen in the nation of Elon Musk's birth. Look at that face. He's not messing around. One would argue that when it comes to South Africa, Elon Musk is probably one of the top confidants of President Trump, who helped form his policy and opinion on this. I don't know that for sure, but if I were Donald Trump, I would turn to Elon Musk and his family to get some information about it. And by the way, Elon Musk's father was a huge opponent of apartheid. Don't believe a lot of the lies that you'll hear about him. There were a lot of righteous white Afrikaners who opposed apartheid and helped topple the apartheid government, just so you know. And for all we know, those righteous white Afrikaners who loved their country and helped do away with apartheid could very well be the forefathers 2 generations ago of some of these very white farmers who are now being slaughtered for one reason and one reason only, because of the color of their skin. And Elon Musk, boy, you look at that death stare as he is fixed on the man who is turning his country of origin into a genocidal killing field. Also, earlier this week, he gave an interview where he was asked specifically about the events in South Africa, and he held nothing back.
Not otherwise. And so now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa, but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not black.
Well, it looks
Does
like
that
that's
seem
about.
right
Look,
to
it
you?
looks
Does
like
seem
that.
right to you?
Looks like that's about to change.
I just asked you a question. Please answer. Does that seem right to you?
Well, those rules were designed to
Does that seem
bring.
right to you? Yes or no?
Those rules were designed to bring about an era of more economic equality in South Africa, and it looks like the government has found a way around those rules for you.
I asked you a question.
This is your interview. Everyone wants to hear from you.
I asked you a question. Yes or no?
Not for
Racist
me.
laws, yes or no?
Not for me to answer. I have got a question for you about your government
must
work
like
though and the
racist laws
amount of
then.
savings.
Why do you like racist laws?
This is not for me to answer. Come on.
Yes, it is.
Now, you wouldn't be trying to dodge a question.
So you have to
that
ask a
is difficult
question.
for
I
you
answered
to
my
answer,
question.
would you?
No, you answer my
I think he's learning quite a bit from Donald Trump, but he can also hold his own against the media. That was a great moment. And you saw the interviewer there try to dodge by just rationalizing through the prism of the left and with the language of the left. And this is the same language you'll hear in the halls of academia and DEI departments and human resources departments here in America as well, in your major corporations and in government. That when confronted with the racism of the laws and rules and regulations that have been proposed, the obvious on the face of it racism, where Elon Musk says, yeah, I can bring, cheap internet to this entire country, but they can't make a contract with me because of the color of my skin, because I'm not black. Does that seem right to you? You can't actually answer the question because any sentient being knows that it's not right. So the only way you can rationalize it is to say, well, that was designed to reverse past discrimination. And see, that's the problem. Whenever you endorse and support discrimination because you're trying to undo the wrongs of past discrimination, you are no better than the racists who discriminated in the first place. It's just that you get to pick and choose new people to benefit from your bigotry. Now, that's bad when it comes to regulations that allow for a company or an individual to get a government contract, like Elon Musk just articulated. It's a whole other thing when restorative justice ends up with the slaughter and beheading and, yes, genocide of people just because they happen to be born with the wrong skin. And that's exactly what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are fighting against right now. Pay close attention whose side people are on in this conversation.